Continuing with our examination of SAT function questions, we have this particular problem right here. Okay, and I put it up just over here in my awful handwriting. Actually, okay, hold on. No, it's not awful, because awful technically means to inspire awe, right? To create awe. And that's kind of the reverse of what this terrible handwriting would look like. Anyways, never mind. Okay, so it's not awful, but just bad. Bad handwriting. Sorry, that had nothing to do with anything. Back to this. Okay, so our function is this. The p function says, given an x, here's what we're supposed to do to it, right? We've got to do 150 times that minus x squared. Well, here's our question. What does the x stand for? Reading through it, it says x represents the selling price of these particular, whatever it is that are being sold. Okay, so then the question is, how much will the company make if it charges 25 for the product versus charging 20? Okay, so let's think about what these numbers mean. The 25 represents the selling price, so that's the x, right? So it's essentially asking, how much more would I make if our p function has a value of 25 versus, so if you think about it, how much more, that would be subtraction, right? Hopefully that makes sense. How much more it would make versus if our p function has a value of 20. So all we really have to do is just plug those numbers into our equation, right? So let's just take this down. Let's figure out what would be the value of this function if our x is 25. Well, that would just simply be, let's just switch this up a little bit. Let's, in colors, I'm going to go crazy here. So that would just be 150 times whatever x is, right? Well, in this case, our x is 25, so that would just be that. Minus whatever our x value is squared. Well, if our x value is 25, then we just take that and square it. Yeah, I mean, don't overthink these function things. That's really all you have to do, is just plug in whatever number that they're giving you into the function that they provided. So all we got to do now is solve this. And I feel terrible about this. There used to be a time in my life when I could do this sort of thing in my head, but I'm and decrepit. This will happen to you too at some point. Just giving you a heads up. So I'm going to cheat. Well, okay, not entirely cheating, because it does say, look, we got the little calculator icon. We're allowed to use a calculator. So I'm pulling up my calculator. And let's see what we got. 150 times, sorry for those random life lessons there. 150, so 150 times 25 gives us 3750, okay? Minus 25 squared. Oh, I feel so terrible. I know what this is. I think it's like, what, 525, 625? What is this? I'm going to be killing myself. Yeah, 625. There it is. Okay, so it's 625, okay? And then that's just, well, what is, okay, now if I can't do this in my head, I just want to go jump off a building. So let's see. That would be 3,125. Okay, so what we figured out here was that the profit that we get when we plug x equal 25 into this equation is that. So we're going to do the same thing, but this time in green, because it's Irish Day, right? Apparently, orange and green. Never mind. So we're going to do the same thing, but now we're going to plug 20 into that equation. So let's just go ahead and do that. So that would be 150 times 20, and that minus 20 squared is equal to, well, 150 times 20, let's pull the calculator out. 150 times 20, 3,000. And then minus 20 squared. That I'm proud of myself. I do know that one. That is 400. So that would be equal, and check me if I'm wrong, but that would be equal to 2,600 bucks. Okay, so we figured out what the value of this function was for these two different price values, but the question was, how much more would we make for 25 versus 20? So we basically just have to subtract them, okay? Let's see what we get there. That would be 3,125 minus 2,600. And again, cheating here, but whatever. 3,125 minus 2,600 is equal to 525. And that would be our answer. Okay? All right, one more problem. I know this video is running long, but let's try to squeeze one more in here. What's this one? All right. Number 8. The customer service department of wireless cellular providers found, etc. Polynomial function, this scary looking thing, approximates the number of calls received by any given time where t, this is important, t represents the number of hours that have passed since 7 a.m. Okay, so we just have this function, okay, where it looks creepy, but regardless, it's fine. But then, but the most important thing that we need to know is, given a function, what does the t represent? So they said the t value in this function is the number of hours after 7 a.m. So it says, based on this function, how many calls can be expected by 5 p.m.? Well, okay, so that was weird. That happened by accident. Sorry about that. Okay, so then basically, okay, well, if we know t is number of hours, I don't really know why I'm writing this out, but regardless, I just feel like doing it. Well, then how many hours have passed since 7 a.m. to 5 p.m.? Well, I mean, let's see. So 7 to noon gives us 5 hours, so it's 10 hours, right? Check me if I'm wrong. So we know that by 5 p.m., our t value has to be 10. So then all we have to do is just plug that into our function, as weird as it looks. Let's see. So we got negative 0. What is this monstrosity? 815, and that's t to the 4th power, so it's going to be 10 to the 4th, whatever that is, plus t, which again, remember we found out t is 10. It's 10 hours since from 7 to 5. So t to the 3rd, and that's the next bit, whoops, plus 12 times 10. I can squeeze that in there. There we go. Okay, so let's just pull this out. Well, t to the 4th, okay, I'm gonna just, we can use a calculator. By all means, at this point, just plug this in your calculator and solve it. But, logically, 10 to the 4th is just a 1 with 4 zeros behind it, right? So all we got to do is just drop this 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. So that's going to be negative 815. Okay? And then 10 to the 3rd, that's just 10, well, a 1 with 3 zeros, so that's 1,000. And then plus 12 times 10, that's just going to be 120. Okay? So that's what again, verify this with your calculator by all means, but this should be correct. And so then if we add all these things up, let's see what we got. Well, you know what? Okay, challenge accepted. I can do this. That would be 100. So negative 815 plus 1,000. That should be positive 185. And then that plus 120. Okay, that's what I just did right there. Well, that plus 120 is going to be equal to, what is this going to be? 305, right? Okay, that should be our answer. So, may have messed up my math somewhere, but nevertheless, that's what this is, okay? So the answer would be, we should expect how many calls can be expected by 5? The answer should be 305. So, hopefully, that was helpful.